Hello, everyone. Welcome to the first episode of February of the Rose to the Ceilings podcast.
On this podcast, we really try to view things from the lens of intersectional feminism, and we thought that for Black History Month, this was extra important to emphasize.
Yeah, so today we're going to talk about six women who we find very inspirational, and we each chose three that we're going to talk about what they did. You want to
Mhm.
go first?
Sure. The first person I really wanted to talk about, I have been waiting for an opportunity to talk about actually, is Megan Thee Stallion. Her name's been all over the news recently. I'm sure you've seen it, even if you don't know what's going on. Um, but while people are more focused on the controversy surrounding her, not many people are taking a moment to read her Wikipedia page and realizing just how insanely talented she is. Megan Thee Stallion, first of all, if you were on the internet anywhere in like 2020, she was everywhere. You could not escape her. She even referred to herself as claiming that summer. She did. Like she was not exaggerating, right? And because her songs were so insanely successful in 2021 alone, she won 3 Grammys. 3 Grammys is so crazy in 1 year, and her career is not that old. She's a relatively new artist. That was like her breakout year. 3 Grammys. And she's talked about how those 3 Grammys are next to her degree because she's an educated icon. Not only is she insanely talented at music, just knows how to make a good song, can rap like crazy, she also has a Bachelor of Science from Texas Southern University. That's just so admirable to me because a lot of people think that you can't be blank without and also this like a lot of people view like being creative and being super smart as like opposite traits, and she's here to say like no, my Grammys and my degree are on the same wall. I just admire her so much for that.
That's crazy. I had no idea she has a science degree. I never would have expected that.
And I admire her especially because while there has been, again, there's a lot of people talking on her name, trying to drag her career and reputation through the mud, she's been very open to recognize like you guys need to recognize this is that she's a victim of misogyny, and more misogyny because she is Black. She's talked about this a lot, and one of the quotes I thought was really well spoken of her was quote unquote, Black women are so unprotected and we hold so many things in to protect the feelings of others without considering our own. So this is just one of the many things she's spoken about feminism, about being a Black woman in industry that doesn't really value that, especially with all these male rappers in recent times like Drake, and Drake's the only one I can think of, trying to speak down on her. And she's been very clear to say, like, hey, I know my accomplishments, I know my impact. You can't take that away from me. So, yeah, that's why I chose Megan to talk about.
I love that self-confidence, and I like that you mentioned how misogyny is different for people of color too, because I feel like that's something we try to address in our podcast too, the
Mm-hmm.
idea of like white feminism and how we need to look at the other factors that kind of influence how people are treated. So I love that.
Mm-hmm. For
That's sweet.
sure. You want to talk about yours?
Yeah, so when I think of Black History Month, the first person I think of is Harriet Tubman because she was just so influential in history for people of color. She was born a slave in the 1820s, and she was known as the conductor of the Underground Railroad, which was this big influential movement, and she was a suffragist too. She established a nursing home for African Americans, and she was the first
Oh.
Black woman to serve in the military.
Ooh.
I found this passage from PBS, and I love it. By 1856, Tubman's capture would have brought a $40,000 reward from the South. On one occasion, she overheard some men reading her wanted poster, which stated that she was illiterate. So she pulled up a book and pretended to read it, and the ploy was enough to fool the men.
My jaw is dropped. I knew, I knew her impact on being the conductor. I had no idea that she started a nursing home. I had no idea that she was the first African American woman in the military. I don't know how one person can have all those firsts in history. But that's so incredible. And the last bit is so shocking to me.
It
How
is
about
just
that?
like how witty she is. Like I love her personality from what I've read.
And
Such
I
a
also don't understand how these men are reading this wanted poster for $40,000 stating this is a woman who has helped people escape slavery and has started a nursing home and has blah 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 and still believe that she's illiterate. That poster is talking about all she's done and why she's wanted, and they still believe she's illiterate. No, I think that no, yeah, I'm so glad you talk about that because I think she was a big turning point for a lot of the other people we're going to talk about today. I really think that if it weren't for her, a lot of the people that we're talking about now wouldn't have been as outspoken as they are now because it's kind of like a what do I say, a domino effect.
Yeah, I like that we're kind of talking about the historical side of it, but
Mm-hmm.
also the current woman.
For sure. So yeah, thank you for sharing that one. My second person is also a bit more historical. Might be a little more unknown to some people, but it is Viola Desmond. So a lot of people refer to Viola Desmond as to Canada what Rosa Parks was to America, because their situations were very similar. So first of all, she was a black businesswoman in 1946 Halifax. Just to digest for that for a second, businesswoman alone, very rare in the 1900s. Black businesswoman on top of that, almost unheard of, and she was successful too. And she got in trouble because she was trying to watch a movie and she was sitting in a whites only section of the theater and she refused to move. So because of that, she was arrested, dragged out of the theater, got a bunch of injuries from that, jailed overnight, and fined a huge chunk of money just for being a black woman in that section of the theater. And because of this, she became much more outspoken about the anti uh, black movements in Canada. And because of this, she contributed widely to the anti racism movements in the country by, quote, laying bare the reality of racism in Canada. So this really opened people's eyes on, like, hey, we shouldn't let people be dragged out, injured, and jailed and fined just for sitting in the seat of the theater. And this did create a huge impact, and Canada has recognized that recently, I think around 2010, 2016, they did excuse her arrest. They did like officially pardon her, and they also did put her on the $10 bill. And I have one with me right now.
Oh my god.
They did this to honor her and recognize her impact on not just like the anti-racism movement in the country, but like the country. Because Canada really prides itself on being very inclusive and equal and diverse, and she was really one of the first people to really push that and question that. That's why she's on the bill. And I think that's really cool.
I love that you just pulled out the $10 bill. That's so it definitely racial segregation was such a big issue, and it's important that we have people who fight against it because she could have easily went, oh
Mm.
okay, so I was arrested for this, or they fought against me, so I'm going to back down now. But
Mm-hmm.
no, she knew that she was in the right, so she kept fighting. I love
Mm-hmm.
that.
No, for sure. And this is really similar to what we were discussing with Harriet Tubman. It's like these people kind of started these giant movements, which led us to be able to be talking about this today.
Yeah. Okay, so my next person is Dorothy Vaughn, and she's an African American mathematician. She's a skilled programmer and a computer scientist. And she was NASA's first African American manager, and she worked
Ooh.
during the space race. She acted as a team lead years before her promotion. So she really fought to be recognized as a supervisor, which I think was another big issue in
Mm-hmm.
the workforce. That a lot of times these Black women would be already doing the jobs that are supposed to be paid well, but they weren't. They weren't recognized as that. And there were people who are not of color or men taking the credit. And like you said earlier, it's like Canada's all multicultural, but we're really just a country of a lot of cultures. There's still a lot of racism
Mm.
going on. And she what became like more well known recently because of Hidden Figures, the movie about like the space race, and she was like the main character in that.
You know what? I'm glad she's getting the recognition she needs because, gonna be honest, I've never heard her name until you just said this. And I'm very confused because, people love to parade around, we want the space race, we went to the moon. But I've never heard her name. We love to talk about Neil Armstrong, but not the woman who sent him to the moon. Um, so I'm really glad that she was able to do that. And one thing I did notice is that you were saying how they had to fight for just people in general, like women in general, black women in general, to get paid more. Because I think that she could have so easily been selfish and been like, I did all that. I'm the manager. So I think you guys should give me a raise. But she's like, no, all women deserve, all of us deserve to get paid more. She could have so easily just lost her job for that, for being annoying. But she still fought. And I think fighting has been a big central theme in this episode, not just this episode, but like feminism in general. Because if these people weren't fighting, like you said earlier, if they were just letting things happen, we would be nowhere.
For sure. And I feel like another theme is like they all care about other people in the same situation as them. Like Viola Desmond, she's fighting because she knows that other people are facing
Mm,
that same oppression. And same with thing with Dorothy, like she's teaching other women how to program. She's fighting for equal pay because she knows how unfair it is that they're going through
mm-hmm,
that. So I love that you brought that up.
mm-hmm. Yeah. Also, the computer science thing is just so cool. I just think people who can code in general are so cool. Anyways, the last person I have prepared is Misty Copeland. Misty Copeland was the first black female principal dancer for the American Ballet Theater. So principal dancer is just kind of like a main dancer, like a prima ballerina, like the icon, the star usually. And the American Ballet Theater is one of the three big American dance companies in that whole country, so like a very big deal. Here's the thing that shocked me: she only started ballet at age 13. She started at 13. If you've done dance before, you know that everyone else who's danced started at 3, started at 2, started at 1. They started as soon as they could walk, as soon as they could take steps, they were in tutus, right? So these girls have been training since 3 to like 13. Misty started at 13. She came in, no experience, did a lesson, and was so good that 4 years later at 17 she already got accepted into the American Ballet Theater, which is a dream some people have to, again, learn for years. They have to pay. Not, I'm not saying she didn't painstakingly practice, right? But she was just so good. She was seen as this prodigy that she was just able to come in and take the ballet world by storm. And the thing is, she was the, again, first black female prima ballerina almost ever in this history of this very old company. Ballet's been around for a very long time. So she just kind of showed everyone, I'm not only able to do what everyone else is doing, I'm so much better at it. So that's one of the things that I just admire so much about her.
That is so cool. I've never heard of her before this, so
Mhm.
this is also really cool for me to learn. I love that.
And another thing is she's also very outspoken about equality in ballet. Um, I know a lot of people are going to say like, how is ballet unequal for women? They actually, ballet favors women, right? All the ballerinas are women, but she thinks a little bit more nuanced than that, right? She's pointed out that, yeah, you see women on the stage, but have you really thought about how few women are the choreographers? How
Mhm.
few women are the directors? How few women are in charge of these giant ballet companies? How many of the women are just in the background scene at the top of the industry? Because you really think about that, it poses the question: who is in charge here? Who is on top here? And she's pointed that noticing this can lead to people actually being able to change ballet culture and dance culture in general, because many ballerinas have come out and spoken about how toxic, how unhealthy it is. um, and she's pointed out, she's like, we need more women choreographing, we need more people running these companies. So I really admire her for that too.
That's amazing. Yeah, I never thought about that for ballet. There's definitely that idea that like certain companies when they hire for diversity, it's often the people in the lowest ranks.
Mm,
So really what are you changing at that point? And that also reminds me of something I saw on the news today where they were saying that with like the new Sephora teenage girls, this is like so
oh my
off
god.
brand, but they were saying that women are always said that they have to be more perfect or there's something that
Mm,
always has to be improved about a woman, and I feel like that really connected to what you were saying.
shoot. Again, still off topic, but on that Sephora 13-year-old note, I get it. It's funny to watch a TikTok about, oh, these Sephora teenagers are buying all the drunk elephant. Yeah, that's funny. I'm gonna click like on that video, but I'm also gonna think about why 13-year-olds feel the need to have retinol, why they feel the need to prevent premature wrinkles. Okay, well, we'll talk about this another time, won't we?
For sure. Okay. So my last person, My last person is a little bit personal to me. It's Rihanna.
Ooh,
And oh my gosh, I love Rihanna
I
so
can
much.
tell by the way your shoulders are shaking.
She is like my childhood artist, and she definitely gave me a lot of like confidence and independence listening to her music. And I feel like she's done that for a lot of women out there. And
Mm,
especially Diamonds and Umbrella, those are like her big like confidence anthems. But what really like caught my eye is I saw somebody analyzing the song American Oxygen, which I haven't heard of before I was looking at this. And it was about like the fight for a new America, so an
mm,
America without racism, without inequalities. And it was about her own struggle with racism, immigrating from Barbados to New York, which
mhm.
I didn't know about her.
No, for sure. Rihanna is an icon. Even if you don't personally listen to her music, you can't deny her impact, right? I've also seen a lot of people talking about how hard it is to truly like be like, "Yay, America! I love America," while also fighting the racism from within the country. Like for example, Rihanna played the Super Bowl, right, which is like seen as like this like pinnacle of American culture. But at the same time, the internet, like there are very racist parts of everywhere, especially the internet, which is clowning on her so hard while she's here representing the country, singing her heart out. That was such a good performance. I rewatch it almost daily. And she manages to ignore that and still fight for change. So I'm glad you brought her up because now I want to listen to her music again.
It definitely, all these people have in common is that they are in the public eye. They're constantly
Mm-hmm.
being discriminated against and being told that they shouldn't be doing what they're doing, yet they still do it. And that's the important part.
No, for sure. And that's why intersectional feminism is so important because you can't talk about any of the struggles these women have been through without mentioning their ethnicity. You cannot mention their struggles of being a girl without mentioning their struggles of being black, right? So you can't. They're not separate. Some people have mentioned this. They're not like they coexist. They're together. They're mixed. That's why it's intersectional. Like it's, right?
Yeah.
And I do have a quote to end things off, kind of summarize the intentions we're trying to push with this episode. It was brought up by the Combahee River Collective, which was a black feminist lesbian socialist organization that was active in Boston around the 1970s. And they said if black women were free, it would mean that everyone else would have to be free, since our freedom would necessitate the destruction of all of the systems of oppression. And I feel like that just really kind of summarizes how intersectionality impacts everyone, not just women of color. It means everyone would have more freedom. It means all inequality would be helped.
Yeah. That's a great quote. I love that. Happy Black History Month. We hope you learned something and thank you for watching.
Thank you guys.